Welcome back, nerds. How's it going? All right, so I titled this stream PowerShell Profile Customization. So what I'd like to go through is what the heck is a PowerShell profile? Teach you about that. I remember when I first started my PowerShell journey, I knew what the profile was, and I just spent forever Googling like cool things people do with their profile, because I didn't know enough to know what to do with my own or to write the stuff myself. So I just try to Google what other people were doing. And so hopefully that's what this will be. We're going to go through what I have in my profile right now, why it's in my profile and not a module. And we're going to fix a couple things that I want to fix, but through that, you'll see how useful a profile can be. So let's just jump into it. A profile, there's several types of profiles, but we'll get into that. A profile is basically a script that PowerShell loads when you open PowerShell. So if there's any fancy function or whatever you want to have PowerShell do every single time you open PowerShell, you put that in your profile. And so that ranges from when you open your PowerShell profile, you want it to write this colorful prompt about what time is it, how much RAM are you using on your computer, and just whatever. So I don't do that, but that's an example. When I open my PowerShell here, nothing. It's just my prompt. But a ton of scripts are available to me right now because they're in my profile. One example is, and this is one of the functions that we're going to be looking at today, is if we go to projects GitHub, one of the functions that I have written in my profile is update Git repos. And so what this is going to do before I run that is, if we look at this folder, there's all these, folders I have here in my GitHub folder. These should be all GitHub repos, right? So this is a repo in GitHub, all of these. Well, I anticipate having lots and lots more as I start to work on stuff and contribute to more open source projects and things like that. So the way you keep these updated is you have to drill into one of these, do a git fetch or a git pull, whatever you want to do. And this is already up to date, but if I wanted to pull the updates, I'd have to manually come in here into every folder and do that. So I wrote this little puppy to basically recursively figure out where I'm at, what are all the folders, confirm it's a Git repo. See there at the end, tech doofus, that's not a Git repo, it's just an empty folder. But if it is a Git repo, and there's some checks in there, it's going to do a git pull and pull the stuff. I ran this earlier, but everything's already up to date. But with this, I don't have to keep track of keeping everything up to date with, what's on the remote. So that's one cool example. And that's actually one of the ones we may look at today, but that lives in my profile. And so there are several types of profiles. There is, how do you look at them all? Profile. Here we go. Perfect. Let's rerun this and make this just a little bigger. So there are 4 profiles for PowerShell by default. VS Code has a profile and something else, but that's not specific to PowerShell. So you can tell by the name of the file who it applies to. All users, all hosts, all users, current hosts, and I'll explain what a host is in a second. And then there's current user versions of those. Current user, current host, current user, all host. And then it gives you the path to the file that when it looks for that profile, that's the file it's going to load. Not all these files exist, but PowerShell just has these hard coded in. If they did exist, this is where it's looking to find them. So the profile I use is current user all hosts. And the difference is, let's say like this update git repos function. If that was in the all users all hosts profile, any person that signs into this computer is going to have that function available to them in the customized, whatever else you customize, right? Well, I don't want that. And plus you have to have admin rights to put this here. Notice it's on the C drive in your program files. I like to do as much non-admin stuff as I can get away with. You can install modules and all kinds of stuff without being an admin. So I just like to rely on the current user all hosts. So that's the difference between all users and current user. Only when I sign into this computer, that profile is going to apply to me. What the host is PowerShell is an engine, right? It's not like one piece of software and you have to use that software, for example, right? It's an engine that can be accessed by multiple things. So in this case, I'm running Windows Terminal and it's accessing PowerShell. So Windows Terminal in this case is a host. VS Code also has a PowerShell terminal here that I can interact with. So this is another host. VS Code has its own host. And then there's the, just the Windows PowerShell. This is another host. Yeah, broken stuff. That's cool because I don't use Windows PowerShell. And then there's PowerShell 7. This is another host. So depending on what host you want to use, each of those will have their own profiles. So current user, current host, when I open up PowerShell 7, for example, it will load this profile. But when I open up Windows PowerShell, it won't see this location because Windows PowerShell has its own list of a different value for the current host. Let me pull that up. Windows PowerShell. We'll just skip over these errors that we see, but all right. So what did I type? Profile. There we go. So notice the current host hard-coded into Windows PowerShell is a different folder. But I like to use the current user all hosts. So any host that accesses PowerShell is going to use the same profile. So whether I open up PowerShell 7, whether I open up VS Code, Windows Terminal, etc. One profile to rule them all for my user. I don't care about any other users, right? So the profile that I always play with is this one. So now you know everything about the profile. Now what matters is what you put in it. So I came up with a unique way to handle keeping my profile up to date on all the machines that I use. So I store my profile in GitHub. So let's go out there real quick. I store it in a repo called .files. Where are you? Let me just search for .files. Oh, it's at the top. Duh. All right. So this is my profile. So let's say I get a brand new computer. I don't want to have to set up all of my modules in my profile and all this fancy stuff that I want in place every single time that I have a new environment or something. So I've created this. You just basically run this install file. This is not the profile. This just kicks off installing all of the profiles. Right now, the only environment I have is PowerShell. But if I have different environments that also have their own profiles, I can add them here and install them all at once. But right now I only have PowerShell. So here's my actual profile is here. This is where the scripts live and everything. But when I run that install file here, what it's doing is figuring out what are all the folders in this .config folder. In this case, it's only PowerShell, and then go and run its install script. So that's kind of where we start our journey, is this install file. And this might look better if we just come into VS Code and look here. Just the same thing. So here I'm installing this PS depend module because it does a great job of installing other modules and dependencies, right? PowerShell depend, I guess is what that stands for. So it's calling this requirements file. So if we come into here, these are all the modules and tools and things that I want installed in my environment. So this module, oh my posh, whatever the newest version is. When I run this install file, just download all of these. Admin Toolkit, Help Desk, Saki, these editor command suite, all these things I want. So it automatically takes care of that. And then install my Git repos. And here's one thing I want to work on today is it's going to, if you were to clone this repository and run this, it would clone all of these repos as well. And they're all mine, right? Because this is my profile. Well, if Joe Schmo out there likes my profile, but they don't care about my Git repos, I'd like to include a way for them to skip that. So that's something that we'll add today. But basically, it's going to clone all of these for me because I work on these projects and I want them cloned. So we do that. We clone the Git repos. And then there's some fonts that I install, which give me like these fancy little characters and these Git characters here. So this font, there's a function that installs the font, and then down below is where I go and grab the specific, I think it's called hack. Yeah, the hack font that's stored in GitHub. Download the latest version of those fonts and then install those fonts. And yeah, you actually have to be an admin to run this. But anyway, so again, you can see my profile is customizing everything, customizing fonts, customizing, cloning my Git repos. And then we've got the actual profile. So let's go ahead and look at that. There's some stuff in here. At the start, I want it to use a certain type of prompt, right? Every time I hit enter, it's going to reload this fancy prompt. What file path am I in? If it's a Git repo, show me all this magic. And I have these three little cool carrots. So it's going to load that. Every time I open PowerShell, it's going to load that. It sets some custom stuff for PS readline. That's where I can type commands, and it's sort of like searches my command history and tries to guess at what command I want. And if I want that, so that helps. PS readline's pretty cool. And then let me make this smaller. That's fine. If you need it bigger, let me know in the chat. And then I've got other functions here. Git log, and I make an alias, GGL. I don't want to have to type this one line graph. Decorate, which kind of makes this colorful down here. I don't want to remember all this. So I just GGL, and that's something that I want in my profile. When I open PowerShell, I want that command available to me. So that's something that I have. Git log. New git add commit push. This is something I wrote because I'm lazy, and I make an alias GACP. So this is basically YOLO commit with this commit message. Instead of having to do like a git add dot and then a git commit -m a message, wait for that, and then do a git push, I can just do a GACP. GACP. Here, I updated something this morning. So this will add all the changes to this repo, use this message to commit, and then push it up to GitHub. One command. I don't have to type 3. So that's something I like to have in my profile. I made this. So you can see how this is very customized to me. Profiles are very cool. Git who am I? Just shows me in this repository, what's my email, what's my name. This is what Git's using when I commit stuff. And the one I've been working on, here's what I showed just a little bit ago, update Git repos. So let's minimize some of these. So I'm basically, wherever I call this at, it's going to default to, right here. It's going to default to wherever I'm at. And then it's going to grab every subfolder. And for each one of those, test to make sure it's a Git repo. And if it is, git pull. There's some logic in here that I use to prove it's a Git repo. So first it's got to have a .git folder, but that's not enough. Once it's got a .git, it has to be able to run git status without erroring, basically to prove it's a healthy Git repo. And if it is, Git repo comes back true or false. So that's what I do down here. If the folder is a Git repo and this comes back true, then I'm safe to pull and there won't be a bunch of garbage on my screen. So that was this. Update Git repos. And I can give it a path, but like I said, right now it defaults to where I'm at. And there's no updates for any of these, but that's okay. And then, yeah, anyway. So there's that. I have this that creates this is admin variable. And I can use this elsewhere. So when I open PowerShell, if I write functions or other things, I can, instead of doing this logic in all these other scripts, I've created a variable that tells me if I'm an admin or not. I've got a publish function. I don't really use this anymore now that I've actually built pipelines that publish my modules to the PowerShell gallery, but it's still in here. This get ASCII reaction, I use this all the time. It gives you, well, this is a bunch of garbage, but my favorite one is shrug. So it just gets you these characters and it automatically copies this to your clipboard. So I can use this very quickly in like Teams messages to my teammates and things like that. You know, I don't know, you know, that's, you can use a GIF, you can use this. I like it, but that's something I like. It's not really a productivity function, but I want it in my profile. I want to have that function. So that's where I put it, is in your profile. And then some other, these are the last two. Get accelerators. Accelerators are something in PowerShell. They're like variable types, kind of. Like if I'm going to declare a variable, I can declare it as an int or an int 32 or a short, or a time span. And so there's just like all the different object types that you can create stuff with. This just gets you that list. You know, I don't want to have to remember this. And then this is something too, I've tried to more accurately capture errors in my scripts. If you don't know what this is, just ignore me. But in PowerShell, you can have a try block and a catch block. And that's basically saying the code that you write in the try block, it's literally try to run this. And if there's an error, immediately go to the catch block and then, you know, write error, or you want to do something if this code errors. You can be very specific with the types of errors that you catch. So if you just use try catch, any error is going to go to the catch block. But let's say you can come up with 12 different errors that could happen with those lines of code, and you want to do something unique for each one of those errors. There's all these different error types that you can catch specifically. So if the code you run happens to be this XML exception error, you can specifically catch that and try to do something else. So these are just references. IO exception, you try to do something with a file and this specific event happens to throw this IO exception. You want to catch that and do this very specific thing. So I have this in my profile. It's available to me, but they're not like, these aren't related in any way. So there's like, I'm not going to put this in a module, but they're in my profile. So that's a profile. Now let's get to work on customizing my fluff. So one of the things I wanted to work on is, I've only ever used this profile structure. You know, I cloned this repository, run the install file, poof, it's just supposed to work, right? Well, it really only works on Windows machines. I haven't really configured it to be agnostic, you know, whether it run on Windows or run on Linux. So I'd like to throw in some of the error checking and values to make this Linuxable as well. So if we do install, I don't think any of this needs to change. I think it's specifically in my PowerShell here. Let me think about this. And we can even, I think we can even try this in a Linux deal up here. Do I have Ubuntu? No. Okay. Let me go to the store quick and install Ubuntu. Ubuntu, what's the difference between these? All right, cool. Let's just grab this one. I don't know what the difference is. This will let me load like Bash as if I was in a Linux environment, even though I'm on Windows. I'll show you this in a sec once it's done. Launch, is it gonna make me? Yeah, so it's running, it's got a setup. It's gonna ask me to make an account, a user account inside of this Linux environment. It's literally like having Ubuntu installed. Virtual machine. I think I have to install a patch for that. I'll worry about that some other time so that I can test this stuff. But the main thing is handling like profile paths and things, and like never include a file slash, because in Windows and Linux, they're different directions. So you want to have code handle that for you. I thought I had an issue this morning with this. Yeah, like this font install is very Windows specific. This is all Windows registry installing fonts. So I guess I want to not install the fonts if I'm not on a Linux machine. So this tests if I'm an admin, which again is a Windows thing. So I'm just going to wrap all of this in. Yeah, okay, there already is a, there's also is Windows, I think. These variables exist in the new PowerShell. Now that PowerShell can be installed on Windows, Mac, or Linux, they include these variables. Is Linux is not a variable that lives in the old Windows PowerShell because it was never meant for Linux. So the fact that that variable even exists proves you're on the cross-platform PowerShell. I'm just going to add this here. If is Windows. Oops. Then we're going to run all of this. Then we can safely run this Windows specific admin check and this very specific install font script. So I think that takes care of that. Let's just write some output here. Write host. Let me make this a write warning instead of a host. Cool. So we're error handling for these Windows specific functions that I don't have time to rewrite right now. I did fix this earlier. This is something I changed before the stream. Got a little ahead of myself, but this was written like this. Users, and then I put in the username. Right? So this is obviously completely Windows specific. And the file slashes are Windows specific as well. I want PowerShell to handle, whether you're on Linux or Windows or whatever, there is a variable that will dynamically change to give you this whole path. The first thing I did was I changed this to $home. That's another automatic variable. It's your home path. And this will change if you're on Linux as well. If you're on Linux, it's going to be whack home, whack your username. But then I still had these Windows specific slashes in profile afterwards. And I was like, why don't I just call this? And that will give me the whole path to the profile I want. And if this was on Linux, it would be the whole path to the Linux profile. So there's no issue there. So I went and changed that this morning. And so then I test to see, yep, if does that profile exist? And if it does, then I create a config folder in their profile. Oops. There's this .config folder. And then in here, I create a PowerShell folder, which really is a link to, let me show you this. This is kind of confusing, but it makes sense once I explain. So .files, config, PowerShell. When I click on this, you see this little shortcut icon. It's a symbolic link. So as far as Windows is concerned, this file path is real. You know, C, users, math, config, PowerShell, and there's stuff there. But really, it's just mapped to wherever you have the repo installed. So really, it's these files. I think if I, hang on. Cancel. So if I were to, I don't want to do that. If I were to delete these here, they would be deleted over here. I do this because I want to start using more containerized platforms to test with things and to include my profile in and stuff. And I think what's that new GitHub? There's a beta for like a new development environment that GitHub provides. Code Spaces, I think is what it's called. When you launch Code Spaces, this is where it looks for your profile automatically. One of the paths is this .config PowerShell folder. So all I've got to do is clone this repo and install. And no matter if I'm on Windows or Linux or one of these very unique containerized platforms, my, semi-useless profile is going to be there, and I want it there. So I'm sort of like trying to account for all the different environments this might be installed in. And so even on my Windows machine, having this path is kind of useless, but here's what I do. So I create this path, this config PowerShell, I create this profile, and then I check to see, let me open that up. Let me code. So here's my actual profile that PowerShell loads. It's empty. My install script just puts a reference to the .config version of the profile that all these other things referenced by default. So it really just loads this file, which is empty, but this file then loads this other magic one. And so I check for that here. I check to see if it's already referenced. Like if I were to run install right now, I don't want it to put another, clone this like this. And just every time I run install, it just keeps doing this. So I'm checking for that. Here. Yeah, I think I can just copy this as is down here. Yep. All right. And I'm saying is already referenced. Oh, I need to copy this as well. There we go. This comes back true or false. Well, the fact that it shows this, PowerShell will read this as true. So if it's true, This not makes it false, which means it skips this code, which is adding it to the profile. But if this is false, meaning this is a new system, I've never ran this install and I've never referenced this file, then this not makes that true, it flips it, and then it will run this, adding the reference to the actual PowerShell profile. And so it takes the pattern, which is this dot space quote, blah, 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 and it just writes it to that file. If you've already got stuff in your profile, but you just haven't referenced this, it'll just add it to the end. That's what this append is. So it doesn't overwrite your profile, it just adds it to the end with all your other stuff. So I could have functions defined here. And I'm also adding this profile into the mix as well. So yeah, it's kind of confusing. It can be confusing if you're new, but profiles are really a fantastic way of making you as useful as possible when you're at a PowerShell prompt. Some people don't, their jobs are maybe an hour a day they get to use PowerShell. That hour needs to be as productive as possible, right? So if you spend some time customizing and, I always run these couple commands and have to rewrite blah, 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 just add it to your profile. And then, things you do over and over and over again. I type GGL all the time. If I type this here, it's going to fail. There's no git repo. But if I come into admin toolkit, GGL, just real quick, I want to see like the last few commits. And it gives you the hashes. So, I want to go here, look at some code at that point, blah, blah, blah. I use this all the time. So I wrote a command for it and put it in my profile. Let's close saved. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other Windows specific stuff that we didn't account for already. That was easier than I thought. I changed this, was a big one. I like hard coded in a Windows path to the profile, which was dumb. PowerShell provides that for me. And until I rewrite these, the font installs, if we look at that script, it's very Windows. See temp fonts, there's all this font stuff, and like Linux doesn't have a registry. So it would be a lot of work. I don't even know how you install fonts on Linux. Honestly, I've never done that. But when I install Linux and I can play around and figure out how to do this, I can make this function account for that. And this function just knows, you want to install this font? Here's the file, right? Am I on Linux or Windows? And then it'll go forth and do the thing for that system. So, future project, I have to do some stuff apparently to get Windows, to get Ubuntu to run. This yelled at me, so I'll have this ready for some other time. But yeah, so I think we're good on this. You can run this install profile on Linux. You just won't get everything. You won't get my font or anything like that. Yeah, and the fonts, like I said, are these, basically for my prompt here. The projects, GitHub, it's, these little icons here and these Git icons that it uses. That is in the hack font that I have installed on this box. So let's go ahead and see. Yep, everything that we've changed is just wrapping all the Windows stuff in a Windows check, and it'll only run this if you're on Windows. So let's again, this will git add, commit with this message, and push because I'm lazy. So that's something I have in my profile. Very cool. Again, whether I run it here in Windows or in Windows Terminal or I run it in VS Code, I have all those same commands because again, my profile is in a place where all the things access the same profile. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, if anyone has any more profile questions, let me know in the chat. There's all kinds of stuff you can do here. If you have any ideas, let me know. This is just my couple of things. My profile is not that big because you see in these in this requirements, like I'm also installing all these other modules, which are as if they're in my profile. If I call a function that's in help desk, it's just going to load for me. So these are kind of as if they're in your profile too. But the stuff that isn't in a module somewhere on the internet, you got to put in your profile. You know, stuff that's special to you. If you don't want to put it in a module, just stick it in your profile and call it good. But I use my profile on a lot of different computers. So I've put it in GitHub. So if we come back up here, so I can just clone this whole repo, say updated 1 minute ago. Now I can go to another computer, run my update git repos, and I've got the new profile because PowerShell's already looking in a certain spot, and that spot got updated when I pulled. So that's all I have to do is update my local repo wherever they are, and poof, I've got the profile update. So this was the best way for me that I could come up with to sort of distribute all my code and just make it as easy as possible to keep all these places up to date. Yeah, create the symbolic links, use PS depend. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to add. If someone wants to skip, like they want to run my install, but they don't want all my PowerShell Git repos, for example. Oh, these. They're just basically all my stuff. I would like to say, I guess we have to make this a function, huh? We'd have to come up here, add a parameter. I'm going to add a switch for skip PowerShell Git repos. But then how do I pass that just to this? I'm going to say, okay, we're already in a loop. So if I'm already referencing a folder name, so I can say if dot name is equal to PowerShell, the name of the folder. Let me just copy this. Move some stuff. Okay. Now I got to figure out how to add this parameter onto this. I guess first I have to make it a function as well. Oops. All right. Make this a switch. A switch is just true or false. A switch is this value. Someone either provided this or it's absent. Skip. Or should get repos. Okay. So what that means is like, really? Did I not save this? There we go. So I either provide this or not. It's not like a parameter that like accepts a value. It's just a switch. You either say skip or you don't. So that's what a switch is, and that's different from a parameter that actually like accepts a value. Okay, so skip. I guess I would just add it. Let me do this. If it's PowerShell, skip repos splat nope, hang on. PowerShell get repos. All right, this needs to go away. That's not a variable. Okay. So now I'm making a hash table that has this value, which is the value of if someone provided this or not. Is it present? True. Is it not present? False. And then I guess I can I guess I better put this in quotes. I think I can just add it here. I've never actually done this before. Skip repo splat. That looks like it'll work. Then whether this is true or false, if someone provides this, this gets set to true and that gets passed here. If someone doesn't provide it, this is false and that gets passed along. So here, I want to just write like, I just want to see if this is present. So save that file, close everything that's saved. All right, I want to run install skip. True. Okay. So that means we provided this parameter here, this switch, and we set it to true, which sets this value in this hash table to true. And that's where I hand it along to this install file as true. And then in here, I'm saying, give me the value of this parameter. Was it provided or not? And so this coming back as true means I'm properly handing it off here. So that's good. I don't need this anymore. Now I just have to write the logic for, now that I know that this is properly true or false, well, I guess I should remove this and see false. Yep, so it works. Now I need to say here, if not, skip PowerShell get repos is present. There. So I'm saying if this is present, yeah, okay. If this is not present, this is set to false. And this, again, this not flips it and sets it to true. So I did not provide the skip, so it will run this code to install. If I provide this, I'm saying yes, skip, this will be true, and this flips it to be false, and so then it will skip this block of code. So if I provide this, it skips the install of the Git repos. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. And now I can GCP, adding feature to skip cloning PowerShell Git repos, repo list. Using skip. There we go. Cool. Well, I'm not really sure what to do now. I don't have too much in my profile to play around with. I have been messing a lot with this update Git repos. What I tried to do was have, okay. Oh, this is taking a while. Come on, let me just come here. So, all right, well, okay. So if I'm here and I call update Git repos, it will only look at these folders. That's it. But let's say, I don't know, go to new folder training. And then inside of this training folder, I've got more Git repos. Let's just call it Git 1, Git 2, Git 3. Git init. Make these Git repos real quick. Okay. back here. So what I would like to do is there are nested Git repositories in this folder, but right now my function will only hit these top level folders. I almost want it, I want to try to have this recursively open these to see if there are other Git repos nested. But the problem with that is, let's say inside of Git 1, there's 5,000 folders. If I recursively look for all folders, each one of those nested folders, so 5,000 more folders, each one of those can successfully run git status. And then, because that's true, it's going to run git pull. So I'm not just running git pull once for the git 1 repo. I'd be running it 5,000 times inside of the git 1 repo, because it's going to check each folder. So that's what I've kind of been thinking about. How can I build in some intelligence to only have it run git pull on the parent folder of the Git repo? That's what I don't know. I wonder if someone else has already like if you're in a repo, is there a command I can run where it tells me, oh, yep, this file or this folder is the parent of all these? Git config, I think it's just list. This is like all of the info about this repo. Here's my name and email, stuff about VS Code. But there's no like path to, here's the root git folder. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, git. Let's look at this. So get all values. Get value name. Show origin. Well, that didn't work. User repository config file. Okay, let's go get config. Local list. Here's the local config. It shows me the remote. Get repo root. Is there a way to get the git root directory? Yeah, that's exactly it. I will just run this command I found on the internet. Well, that's perfect. So how can I use this? Let me copy this in here just for a note. To do, use this and to that running git pull 5,000 times. Okay. So what I tried is right here, if I wanted to search recursively for whatever path was given, I would add recurse right here. So it takes this path, which by default, why hasn't this committed yet? It's so odd. Hang on. Oh, I know why. It didn't end this. There we go. It this tick mark treated this quote literally and not as the ending pair of this quote. So that's why it was stuck. It was waiting for me to add the last quote. Cool. Okay, so if I add recurse here, when I provide a path, which again by default is getLocation.path. So this, it will recursively look under here forever, whether, you know, even though if there's only 13 Git repos, but 10,000 folders, that's what I'm trying to figure out. How can I just find the roots of all that? Wonder if I could nested git repos. I basically want to, I guess I'll just have to copy this. Trying something here. So the path is GitHub. For each one of those, get all the folders recursively. And for each one of those recursive folders, I want to return what with this command. Where did that go? Right here. And there's going to be tons of duplicates in here, but then I can pipe this into select object unique. Yeah, let's try this. I didn't think about this the other day. So set my path. Now I'm going to run this chunk of code here. Yeah, that'll take a long time because it's going to search every folder that's nested. I wonder if I could come up with a way to, if that git rev parse command comes back. Oh, I'm missing a quote. There we go. Let's wait for this to finish. I can catch these errors. Nested git repos. Oh, it didn't return anything. Oh, I put this on the wrong one. Whoops. That needs to be here. Again, here's that try catch I was talking about. Try this, and if there's an error, just immediately go here. Let's just try this. Let me rerun this. Great. I want to output this to... Is that how I did it before? Oh, let's do this. I don't know what that means, but I know it worked, so. All right, didn't work there. Let's try 2. Where's my catch block? That's odd. Must have deleted it or something on accident. All right, we got a couple minutes left. That's good. It's just gonna take a long time. There's gotta be a way to speed this up. Oh, of course. I was sending it to null every single time. Oh. Duh. Set location. I'm not even going into the folders. There we go. See, and now we're getting all these duplicates because there's nested folders. There's that many folders inside of the repo. But I want to just run it once for this repo. Yeah, get 1, 2, 3. Okay. So you know that works. It just takes a long time. Let's see if test path. There we go. If test path, join path. Full name. I want to join the directory with git. If it doesn't have a .git folder in it, it's not the parent. And so only if it has that am I even going to attempt running this command. And if it doesn't, it'll just skip it. So if it's got a git, then I can say set location, full name, blah, blah, blah. And so this should just come on. Why aren't I pasting? Catch. Something broke. Nope, I want... Get out of here. Okay, I need to set pathing. I don't know what broke, so I'm just refreshing that. And now I can run this. Ha! And now I only want to even just test those. So these are going to be all nested Git repos. And of course, these are going to all be unique. I don't even need that other thing. I probably don't even need this try catch anymore. So I don't need this. I don't need try. And this can come back there. And now here, I would say all nested Git repos. Let me save that. Reload my profile real quick. Oops, update. Now remember, this is also going recursive. So this is exactly what I'm hoping for. It's just gonna find all the top level. Ooh, see, this is, yeah, I don't want this. It's finding every folder. But this just worked. Oh, now that I'm doing recursive here, I don't need to do recurse here because I've already got the folders I want. Yeah. There we go. Now let's reload my profile. Now it should just run those top level ones. Oh, all right. Couple quirks. I don't need this anymore. Because this is just providing the path and not the entire get child item object of the folder. Now this is the path, and I don't need these dot full names here anymore. There we go. Save, reload. Now I should try to go in and do, you know, get 1, 2, 3, but there's gonna be nothing there. Yep, sweet, that worked. Not sure what this is. I think this is, oh, my top 8. That's weird. Tech doofus. Couple nested ones. These errored because there is no remote. So git pull just throws up this garbage. But yeah, this is exactly what I want. So now, if I want this on all my other computers, now that we know that this works, yep. Adding nested Git repo support with minimal performance increase. Now I just head over to my other computer, run the same function, your git pull or whatever, poof, I've got the updated version of this command. So that's a sneak peek at a profile, and sort of my method of how I keep it updated centrally is I just push it up to GitHub. There's nothing in here that's private, so y'all can clone this yourself, install it. If you're an admin, you know, on Windows, you get the fonts. You can skip using my Git repo clone, and you've got sort of a head start on your profile. If you have any issues with that, let me know. I'm sure something will break. I've only tested this on my machines, right? But yeah, there you go. There's a PowerShell profile. Maybe we can do some more stuff in the future with profiles, but there's another PowerShell concept if you're new to PowerShell is, again, your profile is just your custom, whatever you want to run, whether it's loading functions, showing a fancy prompt on the screen, or whatever it is. It's your unique stuff that you want to have loaded every single time. So I hope this was informative, useful, all the things. Speaking of all the things, follow me on all the things. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for tuning in. Have a good one, everybody. See ya.